And there is another student, Chris, but maybe he will join at 3 p.m. So, yeah, he's coming, yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I see it's connecting.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Hey, Chris.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
So I will begin the interview. So first, I'd like to thank you for presenting in our seminar course. So the first question is about the paper presented in the seminar. So which ideas and intuitions do you have when you started the research, and how was the process of writing this paper?
Okay. So you're going to make this, I'm going to be talking in general, and then you're going to kind of write it the best you can, yeah? Is this how it works?
Yeah, we have it, the Zoom recording going, so Zoom will send a transcript recording after. As well
Okay,
as
Zoom is going to send a recording, and then you're going to put the most important things, yeah?
So when they send the video, they also send a transcript. So they have some, algorithm that transcribes it.
Okay. Because there was email that you're starting with some video or something like this. I don't know what it was. So maybe you're going to use the short just sentences that are going to be useful for it. Yeah.
I maybe
doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That was the answer from Christine, and Yoshanan and Janikos. So like every research paper, there is plenty of ideas, and the way we came to this one, obviously, both Mirjana, the first co-author, and me are from a country called Montenegro, and Montenegro is one of the post-communist countries. So you always try to look into the topics that you could answer, given supposedly you have some institutional knowledge of the region. For this particular project, it started while Mirjana was the postdoctoral student at the Graduate Center, City College of New York, and she was invited over there. She was awarded this fellowship by Fulbright. She was awarded Fulbright fellowship, and she was fellow at City University of New York. So she was cooperating with Professor Shachmurov. He was her sponsor, I think, or the college. So they were chatting, and as I knew both of them, we said, let's do something about the data and the post-communist countries. And then our intuition obviously was that these countries experienced changes in industrialization, deindustrialization. Some of them were having declined from 90s, never recovered, while some were able to do a U-shaped curve like Slovakia, Czech Republic, and they recovered. So that was the initial hint. Then we did our first empirical analysis. Also, Mirjana did the most of it, and she was consulted. I was kind of looking from point to point at the results, and then we were discussing these results. The process of writing, like for any paper, I guess, it starts at the point that you agree that your empirical procedure is done and that you're not going to do anything else unless you send it to referees or you get comments from the seminars or in a similar way. So we created first full tables and then started building from these tables write-up. So the usual way of the writing goes, you get the first draft and then each of us read it. Mirjana, me, and Yohanan read it, and then we just comment what should be added, and then you send it to maybe a few friends, and these few friends give a brief comment, they read a little bit of it, and then after second or maybe third version, you say, okay, this is good enough, and then you think about where to send it in the journal. As this is post-communist topic, we were kind of in dilemma where to send it. So we were debating to send it to Journal of Comparative Economics and some other journals that were covering this field. We decided to send it to post-communist economies. And the reason why we decided so is because I'm working in France. And in France, the research output is not necessarily valued like at the United States. In France, you have a university or business school that tells you, okay, we kind of accept the ranking from 2 French institutional rankings. And then you send the paper to the journals with the most stars. So it goes from 1 to 4.
Yes.
And we decided to send it in 3-star journal, which is second best. So we send it to Post-Communist Economist Journal. We got some feedback, and last week, actually, we got acceptance letter from this journal. So that's about this project. Any additional question on this one?
And
I guess I have one just about
Yeah.
you're talking about the journals with the star ranking. Is it generally the same ranking that you would see in US schools, do you think? Do you think there's a lot of overlap or mostly overlap? And
yeah, it's slightly different because these French institutions, there is like 2 kind of research bodies and they have their ranking list. So if you think about the economics, obviously the top ones are the top ones in the economic Journal of Political Economy, Econometric, or something like this. They would be 4-star plus. And then there will be 4-star journals, let's say Journal of Economic Growth, Journal of Monetary Economics, Journal of Comparative Economics would be 4-star growth in this development field. And that would be a Journal of Development Economics as well. And then it would go down to 3-star journals. So it is similar to the journals, let's say, from departments in the United States. But I guess my experience with the United States is that every school and every kind of tenure committee has the set of the journal that they're acceptable for the school. Yeah, the department has the set of the journal, then the school has set of the journals, and then there is an agreement somewhere there. In France, it's kind of, at least in our business school, it's better defined in a sense. So the point is to collect more stars if you are kind of in this business of doing the research in essence. So obviously the highest award is if you publish in these top journals that are top everywhere, but also kind of there is this star considerations.
Yeah, so thank you. So the second question is about the next steps in your research agenda. So what are the major questions in your field that require future research?
Okay, I'm just going to start with this, with a similar topic. After the seminar yesterday, we were discussing, there is an idea that Professor Shachmurov thinks it's possible to explore. And he was pushing something that in the previous seminar with Professor Vulanovic, Professor Vulanovic witnessed this is kind of unexplored topic. So we are going to see, can Professor Shachmurov obtain the full data? And then we are going to kind of see whether the growth depends on some institutional factors or inequality on colonial status or something similar. So that's what we were thinking last time. But my kind of research agenda is more toward corporate finance. And I do mostly research on something which is called specified purpose acquisition companies, SPACs. It's a relatively new financial product, new asset class, and this year it became an important part of the IPO market in the United States. And for the first year ever, it broke this 50% of the IPO market. Actually, SPACs, there were like 200 SPAC IPOs and about 400 IPOs this year. So it's very good kind of year for IPOs and very good year for SPACs. Not many people know about SPACs. Even less researchers do things on SPACs. So I try to most of my research is about there. So major questions we look like in the recent topic, we want to kind of see whether, for example, the sponsors of these PAC or the managers of these PACs are able to raise the capital, depending who they are. What, for example, we write small paper targeting maybe one of the letters journals. We recently published an economics letter, so maybe we are thinking to try it again, where we want to explore whether the education of the CEO matters in raising capital. And we have a relatively unexplored data set. So for example, if you are PhD, if you get PhD and then you go in this process of capital raising, does it matter? Or are you better than someone who is practitioner and has a bachelor degree or similarly? So that's one of the topics. Also, we try to look what are the implications of retaining good investment bank as an underwriter or similar. Okay.
Thank you. So we also noticed that you have teaching experience in several different countries. So how does this international experience help your career and research?
I think it's City University of New York, at least it's good to offer you a lot of opportunities to adjunct. Maybe things were changing right now. I'm not sure like how easy or how hard it is to get to be an adjunct, but when I was over there, especially that most of us PhD students at that time were not having full funded, or they were almost not funded at the graduate center. So you had to go and to kind of teach at the various city CUNY colleges and various other colleges in New York. So this is not good because you have a lot of stress to kind of do a lot of work and then be able to pass the exams and qualifiers and all of this stuff. But on the other side, if you survive, and the best of us maybe didn't survive, unfortunately, then you kind of have good teaching experience. So I was in essence in New York also having a good experience in a sense that City University of New York probably has the most diverse student community in the world. And then I was lucky and I was helped by my advisor actually and my colleague from City University of New York that graduated 1 year from before me. He was Chinese native, but he got job in Hong Kong, and he was interviewing with City University of Hong Kong, but he ended up having job at UST. So he connected me with his chair because at the point he got job at UST, they said that there is still opening at CTU. So I decided to, I was offered a visiting position in Hong Kong. And then after 3 years over there, I moved to France, primarily because I'm from Montenegro, and France is kind of locationally close. But this, I would say, international experience helps me because a lot of, for example, in our school, we have about, I would say, 20 to 25% of the foreign students, I believe. And I think I could get closer contact with them than most of the professors in my department. And especially with Chinese students, Indian students, that I can kind of find a lot of more common grounds just because this internationalization, okay? But obviously there is a lot of cultural experience that you kind of achieve, a lot of kind of knowledge mixing with so many people of various cultures, origins, education levels.
Thank you. Actually, both Chris and I are also teaching at the CUNY right now. Yeah.
Where you teach?
I'm teaching at City College.
City College.
Yeah. And
then I TA Macro 1 and Macro 2 at the Graduate Center. So.
You're TA, teaching assistant, yeah?
Yeah, for the PhD courses. Yeah.
You don't teach at this CUNY, other colleges, no?
No, not yet. Maybe this upcoming semester.
Yeah, that's good.
Depending on the workload.
I think it's good experience. I'm not sure is this important for the record, or maybe there is some other questions, but when I was in the job market, I was in the job market in 2008 when there was financial crisis. And a lot of kind of schools, even they invited me for interview at the conference, they canceled these interviews, or they would invite you for a campus interview. It happened to me with one, I think it was University of Tampa or something like this. But they would just cancel it because simply there were like a lot of positions, but teaching, extensive teaching that students at the graduate center have helps for these teaching positions. So at least that's an advantage, because in a lot of schools at that time, I'm not sure like how the market is now, many students didn't have this extensive teaching, because technically at the graduate center, you can have 5 years of teaching when you graduate, because some of the people were starting immediately to teach when they started their PhD programs. I was the case like this. Maybe it's not fully fair toward these students where you start teaching first, because it takes you time to learn and to kind of maybe this first generation is sacrificed. But in terms of the candidates, it's really good experience, because you may end up having like 7-8 semesters of teaching experience. And in the market, this is really, this gives you confidence, and you're going to really learn, because there is no better way to learn the subject unless you need to explain it to someone else and similar.
I guess just to follow up on that, how did you, when you were a student, how did you find the right balance between, you know, devoting your time to teaching, devoting your time to your own research and all that? Because I know a lot of people, some of the older students I've talked to, they've said that that's been somewhat of a challenge. Sometimes they will overload their schedule with too much teaching. So from your experience, how did you find the right balance between the two?
I would say there were no right balance. I would say I was lucky that I had good mentor that was kind of, it was Professor Vulanovic from Baruch College, that when I would fail, he would kind of push me to kind of do better, because really at some points you need to overteach it, to teach a lot, to kind of manage to financially kind of survive in New York. That's one thing. And then I was not the best student. I was probably one of with the relatively lowest score GPA in terms of these kind of, I was managing barely to kind of get over 3.0 or something like this, which at the graduate center, so you had some good courses, you're good at it, but there are like some of these things that you cannot just like manage to do it. So obviously you need to fail somewhere, but it's important that you manage to kind of survive and continue further. That was my philosophy. So, and then you sacrifice a lot on any kind of angle. Hard times to find to sleep, but I was not the only one. I remember there were like a lot of Chinese students in my cohort. You come at 7 in the morning to library, 8, they're already there. You kind of going like late night, 11 o'clock, 10:30, they're there. So it was really kind of, it's demanding. But it's a matter also of luck, because I mean, sometimes these qualifiers are challenging. It could be psychologically challenging. It's really a lot of pressure, and a lot of hinges on this decision, like, are you going to pass it or not? And especially if you're not sure that everything is working well. But if you have a chance, if I'm doing it now, I would never enroll in the college where I do not get full funding, 100% funding, if I have a chance. And if I'm doing it now, I would do as much research as I could, because obviously, unless you go to teaching schools, it's research what is really valuable, and then just read what these what are the major kind of topics. Learn, I would say, what is important, and I think City University is probably doing well this now, is to learn econometrics. Econometrics, well, depends what do you want to do. Like if you want to be macroeconomist, learn this macroeconometrics. If you want to do like microeconometrics or corporate finance or something like this, you need to learn these microeconometrics panel. In essence, if you want to read literature later, or if you want to write even a little bit by your own, you need to redo everything that you didn't have to do chance at the graduate center, or even you learn it, but you didn't fully understand it. Maybe sometimes you learn it to pass the kind of test, and to pass the qualifier, but you're not sure exactly like how to apply it. So obviously, if I had another chance, I would be happy to go into school that would accept me with the full funding, and then I would spend all my time doing research and little bit to learn how to teach. But we cannot go back into the past, so that's over.
Yeah, thank you. So most of us are not familiar with business school in France. So can you tell us the difference between the business school in France and the United States?
Yeah. Business schools in France are different than business schools in the United States. Primarily, the difference is standing because business schools in France are much more connected with the industry and with recruiting. For example, our school, it's much better connected than Baruch was, even though Baruch, for example, is a business school of City University of New York, and it's really in good location. I would say that our French school, which has a few campuses, is better connected with recruiters. We get better recruiters and more often. And the goal in essence is to kind of have students that have practical knowledge. In addition, curriculum is different. For example, it's a European system. So you do partially undergraduate education, and then you do this 3 years masters, which involves 1 year of the master courses and then 1 year of the internship. One internship has to be, let's say, inside of France, another should be international, and then in your 3rd year, you go to this Masters of Science. So it's slightly different environment, but students are much more, I would say, they are more practically equipped to enter the job market. While in the US, you would work in the restaurant as a waiter, and then you would go to school. It would be more kind of academic focus, but the school would not be helpful much to offer you this or connect you with the businesses. That's the thing. Otherwise, the school is many other things are similar to the US system, like in terms of the teaching load, relatively similar. In terms of the research expectations, depends how you are kind of classified as a more research profile or less research profile. But again, in a sense, it's very similar. But that's the major difference that I would say, that really the school is much more connected with the business. And actually, our school, where I'm teaching, is organized first formed by the chambers of the commerce. So in essence, the job of this school traditionally was to supply equipped people for the needs of the industry in the region.
So can we say usually the business school in France, they have better job market placement than the United States?
In terms of the PhD programs, these business schools in France are not that big. So the model kind of product of these French business schools is Masters of the Science student. And in that sense, I think they're good. If you take a look in the Financial Times ranking, the French schools are the top in this Masters of Science product, which is something that not many American schools do have. In the United States, it's typical. You go 4 years undergraduate, then you go to Masters of Arts or something like this, or an MBA. But here is different. You go to this Masters of Science. And I guess Masters of Science maybe are picking up in the United States, but it's slightly different. And that's the model product. Our school has PhD program, but most of the attendants are not academics. They are practitioners, people who work in the financial service industry, and it's more kind of DBA, Doctor of Business Administration. It's not exactly, but it's more that kind of profile, people with a lot of kind of working experience come and they want to kind of merge academic research with their professional experience. Although there are like some people who are really on the academic track. And there are like few other business schools that are worldwide competitive, like HEC and INSEAD, but that's about placement.
I guess just to follow up on that a little bit. So have you had to sort of change any sort of teaching style or things along those lines when you're teaching someone who has worked in industry for a couple of years versus say when you were teaching, during your PhD in the city when it was mostly you're teaching undergrads who didn't have any work experience? So did you kind of have to approach those two things a little bit differently?
You always have to kind of check. I guess when we are teaching more, we adjust. Even if we're not thinking we are changing, we do change it. I think I'm teaching mostly finance courses, and my style of the teaching was not changing much, in a sense that finance as a subject is relatively easy to teach, because every day financial markets offer you kind of opportunities to show exactly what do you do in class. So it's really, you do stock valuation, you just open Bloomberg or any kind of other portal, and you see in real life how is this working, or bond valuation or any kind of derivative or anything. So in that sense, I try to make it as practical as possible. So that's my only kind of hint that I can say. Practical, real life problems. If I can explain something, if I can add some value, it's good. And I'm trying to. But it's maybe, but that's what I was in essence encouraged to do even at the City University of New York. So.
Yeah, great. So we have another question about your own experience in writing PhD dissertation when you were a graduate student. So can you give us some advice? Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you advice. I was, this is at least my experience. I was lucky that I was accepted by Professor Vulanovic from Baruch College to work with him on dissertation. So I took some classes at the Graduate Center, and then I wanted to do finance and finance-related topics. I took classes at Baruch at that time. I'm not sure is it possible to still cross-register between Graduate Center and Baruch, but I was taking a lot of PhD courses that people in the business were taking, and Professor Vulanovic took me as his student. I was having a lot of ups and downs. So I had some ideas. My first idea, I think, failed. We spent a lot of time. Professor Vulanovic was helping, and some other professors, to obtain the data. I probably was too much optimistic about how much do I know when I had some idea, but at the end it didn't work quite out. So I wasted a lot of his time and obviously my time. Then in a sense, he helped me with one topic that was one chapter of my dissertation, and another chapter of my dissertation was something that I'm still doing, which is SPACs. At that time, when you're picking the topic, they always tell you, okay, try to do something that no one else is doing. So these SPACs were, that was year, let's say 2006, 2005, 2006. I was thinking, okay, these companies are going to be something, or maybe it's unusual. So I was thinking to explore it. So I wrote another chapter on these SPACs, just like what they are, the basic return performance, or similarly. And that's how it worked. I was lucky that I went to the job market maybe with 1.5 chapters ready, and I got the teaching job. So then I was finishing my dissertation once I was on kind of tenure track job. So then it was maybe less stress for me to finish than it would be usually. But I guess I was lucky more than I deserve it. So I don't know. But selecting dissertation topic, always try to, I guess, read what is the most important papers in your field. Listen to seminars, read the newspapers, and try to get something that you think is going to be relevant. Speak with your mentors. Try to, if it's possible, I don't know, pick mentors anymore at the Graduate Center, but try to pick someone who is research active, who you know that is going to be in the office always there. Try to do on time what they ask you to do. They are much better friends to you than you kind of can think at most of the points. Acknowledge that you know very little, and then just like try to learn, ask for advices. Don't be shy to ask for advices, because it would be kind of good. And then listen, collect maybe some ideas or some views there, like maybe you see something that someone else doesn't, or if you do empirical work, try to learn these econometrics as much as you could, the newest kind of empirical procedures. So that's about what can I say. I was also having help from classmates. A lot of my classmates helped me reading my work, correcting me, criticizing me. So it's a good kind of, if you have someone to help you to kind of tell you, okay, this is bad, or this is just like, okay, it looks like something, or because English is second language to most of us, so your English writing is terrible in general. Mine is probably still it is. So it's but all in all, the more you work, the better you'll be. I guess the good thing is at the Graduate Center, you have an opportunity to go to seminars. You are in New York, so you can go to seminars to Columbia, NYU, all these, you can take consortium classes and things like this. So whatever is your subfield, you're at the good place to listen what the ideas are, and then just like try to do something meaningful. Also try to do something that you can finish on time. Learn how to present. That's what I can say.
Yeah, very good advice. So besides writing paper or writing dissertation, so do you have other kind of difficulties you encounter when you were a graduate student, and how did you overcome these difficulties?
I would say it's at this time, department at the Graduate Center was probably non-existent. Now, at least when I started in 2003, we were meeting in the library. This kind of room, probably where you meet now on the 5th floor, was not that much frequented by the students. It only became frequented probably times when I was close to graduation or similarly. So simply there was no culture of the department. And there were like some students that would be there in the library. A lot of us were maybe not fully funded. Everyone would go to teach at the various colleges, so it was not even kind of easy to find a group to study. And it was kind of probably very hard to be a student at that time. That's my experience. And some very good students, the better students, much better than me, probably didn't manage to get it over. So there were a lot of challenges, I guess. When you somehow survive, it's mostly because you end up being lucky in some few kind of important points. Maybe your comprehensive exam was easier than it should be, or some professor tells you, okay, I am going to pass the person, it's marginal, or just it's a good day and you can write something that maybe in the other days you wouldn't, or I just don't know. But you need kind of a lot of luck, and you needed a lot of persistence, a lot of luck. There is a lot of ups and downs. So when you're down, kind of, if you just like grow over it, if it's possible, and then speak with your friends. So it was difficult. I think in overall, Graduate Center was a difficult place for most of the students. Although I would say that faculty were encouraging. There were like some faculty who were supportive of the students that they were advising, or they were trying to help. But I would say the major issue was, and you don't know this much when you are enrolling in the school, but the major issue was that students were not funded fully. And the Graduate Center simply didn't have enough resources to support that many students, which was, once you realize that, then you're on your own, and it's very kind of challenging.
I guess one follow-up on that. What so you mentioned that at the start of your program, there wasn't really a definitive culture, but you said it started to get a little bit better throughout your time. So was there certain things that you and the members of your cohort that actively did to try to better the culture? Were there certain like, what did you guys do? Like reading groups? Did you guys do? I don't know.
I would say most of the time it was individual incentives. My first reading group was probably when we realized that in Professor Grossman, he's probably not still teaching. I was working still at the restaurants at the time when I was taking these graduate classes, when I get C+ in his first midterm. So then you get C+ in his course, and then you say, okay, I cannot manage just like, I'm going to kind of do bad in this course. And then you go and look around the library if there is someone else. And then you kind of recognize people maybe who are better than you or there. So there was no place there was no kind of office or place where these graduate students would come and sit and have a kind of department life that you would know. It was really decentralized. Maybe in the library, randomly would people go to the offices or to this just main office, and maybe NBR was there, but I probably in my entire PhD program I went to NBR maybe 3-4 times in these offices of NBR. So it depends who you were, okay? And maybe I'm not the student who is the model student, so it depends who you are, but it was not that, it was not the place where you can say, okay, I go to the department, I can always find someone. Because simply at that time, maybe there were like 2 full-time professors. It was Professor Grossman over there. I think Professor Nefci, he unfortunately passed away. They were having full-time offices, and it was executive director, Professor Thurston. They were supportive, but again, you do not simply have enough staff, and they have their own obligations, and then it looked better from outside than it was inside. So I hope now it's better. And I remember like when I was graduating close, I was invited to these faculty student meetings when they were talking about restructuring department, having more faculty life. And I see they're like faculty newsletters or something similar these days. So I guess things are improving. But the good thing is what I would say that at least CUNY didn't give up on the students. So if, for example, if the students were taking longer time, or they just like would make a break for a year or two, I guess the chance would be given for them to continue or to graduate or similarly. So there were a lot of kind of different profiles of the graduate students. So all in all, things could be done better, but I guess I'm not the person to complain because maybe I was not the best one. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your experience. So I have a final question. So is there a larger piece of advice you would like to give to specifically the GCA graduate students?
I would say pass your qualifiers. Don't let you be kicked out of the program.
Yes.
Once you kind of get to that stage, study hard, try to look for the people, think about the people who can support you to the job market, think of the people who are going to genuinely write your letters, because it seems these letters are very important. It should be someone that hopefully knows you. So look for potential cooperations with your professors if it's possible. I think the graduate center was pushing this little bit. I remember when I was speaking with some of the people, they said, okay, there is some incentive now, that graduate students co-author papers with the faculty. Maybe I was wrong, but that was the impression that it was kind of left. It's very important that if you can manage to have like revise, resubmit somewhere in some journal with some professor, even if this journal is not the top journal, but if it's somewhere, because it may make difference at a lot of these schools that between research and teaching. But again, if you want to be a researcher, you would need to learn it. So it takes time. If you are lucky and if you have enough time and enough funding to support yourself in the school, use this time, because I guess in the micro courses, I'm not sure that you took with Professor Grossman, but he would say the opportunity cost of studying now is the lowest. So the opportunity cost really for you to kind of study and learn that is the lowest now. It would be more expensive to take it in the future. So, and then attend the conferences if you can. Look for a budget to attend the conferences. I think this is really good. So you can kind of measure yourself against, not measure, but you see like what the other people are doing, what your people who would be on the job market next year or year after, what do they know? Or it's good to attend these regional conferences. I guess Eastern Economic Association conference is kind of handy to attend. A lot of people from the region would be there. You're going to see it, and then try to attend conferences, speak with the people, listen how the people are presenting. So that's what I can advise you. Work in cohort, read each other's paper if it's possible, criticize freely each other, share ideas, because it's collaborative effort. You're going to see that the best researchers are people who are kind of able to share the ideas and to speak with more people about their ideas. You cannot do it in isolation. So don't let yourself to be isolated. I don't know. This is what's coming off the top of my head.
Just to follow up on that point about collaboration, was there a lot of co-authoring of papers in your cohort? Did people have like working papers or things along those lines, like towards the end of the program? Or was it, or more so just sharing ideas and getting feedback?
I was lucky.
What was going on?
My mentor was very generous, and then we co-authored that one chapter of my dissertation. So, but was that the rule? I'm not so sure. So it's probably like not like in some other schools that I've seen, and that I see. Let's say when people apply to our school, or you see much more collaboration, because you see from some schools people are coming as a full product, already having like few working papers or even published paper or something like this. So it depends on the school culture. And I guess the structure of the graduate center with very few kind of faculty tied to the graduate center restrict this, because I'm not sure like how many full-time faculty now at the graduate center, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of exactly who is. So I know Lilia is.
Professor Weiberger, and
That's what is Professor Weiberg. Is he also at? Doesn't he also teach at?
Professor, yeah, he is.
Okay, I thought he taught at another college as well. But he's always at the graduate center. I'm trying to think who else.
Professor, yeah, it's about 4 or 5 faculty, I think. Yeah.
So what your fields are?
Currently, I'm a second year student, so I'm still taking some courses. But Chris, he's Chris.
Yeah, I'm a third year. I haven't actually taken my field exams yet, but my focus is macro, and then also sort of like computational economics as well. So kind of going down those two paths, which are pretty interrelated.
I guess this computational economics or machine learning is becoming important, if that's close to machine learning. Well, anyway, it was that's what I can tell you. But I think this is, I guess, the end, so it's unofficial. Yeah, I like it's good thing that Shakhmurov is organizing this seminar, and it's kind of really good that you can see. I mean, it would be better if these people would be coming face to face, that you speak with them and have lunches. Do you actually have the lunches with the speaker seminars?
Before the
Yeah,
pandemic and
before.
everything.
Yeah.
So yes, but I don't know. I never attended one. I think they would. I don't know if they always did it. You had the lunch at the graduate center, or I don't know if sometimes different professors, when they would come, if they would go somewhere else. So I'm not totally sure.